Welcome back to the podcast, or welcome to the podcast of Mindful Journey. Uh, my name is Brian McLaughlin. I'm your host. I'm a mental performance consultant in the Toronto area. And today we have on a guest by the name of Jesse Chidwick, also known as Chitty. He's a former hockey player, now possibly one of the most influential real estate brokers in the Dufferin area. He also runs Team Apex. If you aren't following them on Instagram, give them a follow. Chidi is one of the only players to be high sticked by Tyler Seguin of the Dallas Stars and did not receive a Rolex. So if this ever gets out to him, Tyler, do us a solid here and return the favor. But without further ado, welcome to the podcast, Chitty.
Quite the introduction. Thank you. I appreciate the hockey player acknowledgement. Hockey DB slash lead prospects would probably say otherwise, but you know, Rolex is definitely not on my wrist currently. I think 10th acre, different price point. You could probably subtract a zero or two off the back end of that purchase price. But hey, yeah, Segs. If you are listening to this podcast, please, it would certainly help my image with a Rolex.
And you're not asking for too much. I mean, he did take you out of the game, and you guys could have won it with you in it. So
Well, it was a good battle. Kyle Pereira, director of OHL recruitment, he also went down in that game as well. He lost his bottom row of teeth to another NHLer, Chris Terry, right? So 2-0 for the NHL guys. I guess -2 for the CIS All Stars.
fair enough. All right. So we're going to get into kind of your hockey history, kind of some ups and downs that you went through, kind of what helped you. And then we'll get into what you're doing now with real estate and how you're changing the game with real estate. So tell me about your minor hockey experience. What stands out to you? You know, what got you through it? What are some helpful hints?
Yeah, minor hockey. I played AAA all the way through. Most of my minor hockey was played in Brampton. Also played in the GTHL as well. Never really, I'd say, middle of the pack kind of average player in the AAA ranks. Um, I was always a little bit undersized, underweight more specifically for my minor hockey career. It wasn't until 16, 17 where I grew, and then 17, 18 started to fill out a little bit. And then that's when, if anything, my game kind of improved and put me in certain spots where I could at least continue playing.
Hmm. So from minor hockey, you went on to junior hockey. So did you get drafted?
Did not get drafted. I primarily played my junior hockey with Brampton Capitals, so I was the captain there. Uh, Worth mentioning, I did have a cup of tea with the Belleville Bulls, but it's more of an espresso shot. Just one game in Peterborough. Just got blown up, tore my ACL, MCL, meniscus, and so I got my knee done, and then it was back down to Tier Deuce or the Show J, whatever you want to call it, where I finished out my junior hockey there.
So when you got called up and you kind of blew out your knee, how long was that recovery? Because this is, an experience that a lot of athletes have, especially at that age. Might not be with their knee, it might be their collarbone, like I had, or it's something else such as concussions, or what was that recovery time for you?
Yeah, so with my knee, it was in 2005. So I was with Belleville as a walk on. So I wasn't drafted. My goal was always to play in the OHL, right, and then from there try to move up the ranks and go playing the National League. But yeah, so from there, I Didn't have an agent. I was making emails myself, reaching out to teams, just trying to find the right fit. So it was basically between, Belleville and then playing in the Quebec League because obviously I wasn't drafted. So I had an opportunity with Belleville, and I also had an opportunity with Acadie Bathurst. Obviously, not being French speaking Canadian, the Q wasn't really my dream or where I wanted to be if I did have an opportunity in Belleville. So, um, yeah, I had a really good camp, worked out really hard that summer. I was probably in the best shape that I had ever been in. And it was looking promising, but yeah, things happened. First game, uh, got crushed and blew up my knee. So that happened end of September. Had my knee operated on in December of '05. And then the recovery would have just brought me back to all summer. September was when I was back, fully recovered, ready to play again.
And
So
how was that going back into, because you went back to tier two? How
yeah.
was it just playing hockey after being off for that long?
Well, yeah, like you miss out on a year of development, right? And it's with your knee specifically, like they can't just go in and fix it right away. You got to get a lot of the swelling out of there. So once the operation happened, it's a 6 month recovery. So for me, obviously, getting it done in December, I had that recovery period where I was able to train. I was able to get back to varsity. Have a full summer of lifting, skating, and all that jazz. So that helped me. I did actually at the end of summer, I did fracture my ankle, which was a bit of a setback. So my timetable, I didn't start right away for that season. I was off for probably about a month. So September, October is when I got back into it, and a little bit of an adjustment getting going again because obviously I'd been out a full year. But yeah, I had a really good year in Brampton. For me, put up good numbers, and it was just good to be back playing.
And so with that, I mean, that's a long period of time. Like what was something that kind of helped you keep pushing through that recovery and then dealing with that setback of your ankle?
Yeah, like the ankle thing was just that was a bump in the road, right? Because I'd worked my nuts off all summer just kind of getting back to where I was, yeah, I want to try to go back and play major junior. Like that was, I had a sniff of it and like, okay, well, I'm not going to go back and play tier two. I'm going to go back, and whether it be back in Belleville or there was also Quebec League options as well. Me breaking my ankle or fracturing it just before camp, that was kind of the nail in the coffin for the major junior dream. But all I really wanted to do at that stage in my life was play hockey. So it was a quick little mindset where I had to get back into check. And obviously being from Caledon and Brampton area, a lot of my buddies were playing tier two in Brampton. So for me, it was just okay, I'll play here. We had a really good team. And then I just, got back into it and, just kept going.
Fair enough. And then so from junior hockey, where did you end up after?
So after junior hockey, I went and played CIS, played Ryerson there. So um, played 2 years of university hockey, which again was a good experience. So obviously went there, finished up school, but I think based on kind of everything for me from my standpoint, when I was playing university hockey, it was a little bit of all right, well, the highs for hockey weren't as high as they used to be, and the lows were lower than they usually were. So for me, it was kind of like, all right, well, this is all I can kind of give to the game, and I knew it was time for me to kind of to shut it down and start looking at other options.
And so how was that, like a sudden experience, or was that a gradual thing that you experienced over your years at Ryerson?
For me, yeah, it was just kind of gradually where, you're playing 28 game schedule, you're gone kind of every weekend. Like I wasn't certainly in a position where I was one of the go-to guys. Um, so from that standpoint, it was, always been a kind of a good team guy, always happy to kind of be in the room and all this other stuff. But, bus trips, this, that, and the other, like the love for the game was starting to kind of diminish. um, I always wanted to stay involved in hockey, um, but I think my desire to play, it had run its course.
Fair enough. And then so after your time at Ryerson, what was your next steps after to kind of move on from the game?
So for me, it was, I always told myself, I'd like to give pro hockey at least a shot. So I had an opportunity in the Southern Pro League in Mississippi. That was the last lockout, which would have been 2012, maybe. Don't know specifically. Your
Yeah.
listeners can Google it; they'll probably know better. But each minor league was a little bit better than what they should have been, just because of the whole push down. But for me, it was just I always said, "Hey, I'm going to give it a shot." Went down there, was there for a little bit, played a lot of preseason. Um, when push came to shove, that was the end of the line for me. Now, when the lockout ended, it was a shortened season, and everybody kind of got sucked back up. The Mississippi team had reached out. There was an opportunity for me to go back, but I think at that stage it was I had gone, gave it the college try, if you will, and say, okay, I've done everything I could. I'm happy with it. I'm content. I'm ready to cut the cord.
Fair enough. And the jump from CIS to semi-pro, was it a big jump for you, or was it kind of okay? Like, how was that transition, even playing preseason?
Again, I wasn't there for very long. However, it's just different game. Got some guys that have been playing for a long time. The SP is not a league that's guys are full of piss and vinegar. Like it kind of is what it is. It's kind of all she wrote. So yeah, just different pace of game. That's what I noticed. Guys that have been playing there that were vets on the team. Um, Not a whole lot of jam to their game. It was just a playing at kind of a controlled place, thinking the game a little bit more than CIS where you're rolling four lines deep and everybody's crashing and banging.
Fair enough. And then so after you gave it the college try, what did the kind of the next page for you in your book look like? Was it, right away you went into real estate, or did you kind of see a few ventures through? Like how did you come up with or how did you pursue real estate? What was your path?
Well, basically, I come from a family of real estate agents, right? So real estate was never really on my radar because people tend to just think of this industry as smile and dial, dialing for dollars, all these cliche things, banging on doors, like oh, like that's what people think when they say real estate, like oh, you're a greaseball. So I always, in my mind, thought that's not what I wanted to do. So when I came back from Mississippi and hockey was what was out of my blood. I got a job selling photocopiers, working at Canon. So that was a good start. For anyone who's looking to get into sales, I highly recommend the photocopier industry, especially now more than ever. If you can sell a photocopier in a paperless world, you are going to be okay. Food for thought, but it's got its runway. Don't sell photocopiers for too long; it could be pretty miserable.
Hmm. So after you stopped selling photocopiers, did you just jump into real estate right away, or what was the next step?
I got my license in what they call the glory days, where you only had to do 3 tests and then you're good to go. Hey, take the
Mhm.
training wheels off and start slinging barns. So for me, I was working at Canon, door knocking, much like you would, selling houses, going to these small business owners and just, hey, do you need a photocopier? No, kick rocks, kid. We got this. And I remember just sitting in my car like, can I swear on this thing or is this PG-13?
We can go PG-13.
Yeah. So I just sitting in my car and I'm like, well, what am I doing with my life? I'm trying to sell a photocopier that I know nothing about.
Hmm.
If I'm going to be doing these kind of activities, I'd rather do it for something that's somewhat interesting to me, which was obviously real estate, and the pay significantly different than a photocopier transaction.
Fair enough. And I like the comparison between the paperless world. That is good. So getting into real estate, I mean, I see a lot on social media. I have a few other buddies, not yourself, just they're getting into real estate, and it's kind of like a smoke and mirror. And I see it a lot in my field where people that necessarily aren't qualified, or they're just trying to put on a front and get the commission off somebody, right? And you've probably seen it before too. Um, what would be some advice to kind of decipher what's real and what's not within social media or seeing real estate online? Because there's a lot online about it.
Well, yeah, and at the end of the day, I think that's the biggest thing, and it probably speaks to social media kind of as a whole. It is the pitch book or the resume of the highlights of people's lives, right? They're not, you know, putting the intricacies of the job out there. It's just the actual end result. So, for real estate in particular, it's always for sale, sold, over asking, got my guys this much under asking on the buy, whatever it might be. So a lot of that, that's the end result. And people kind of romanticize about that's what the business is. There's certainly a lot more to it. And if you get into the business just because you say, hey, I got my real estate license, I'm gonna put a couple posts on Instagram, and then my DMs and my phone's gonna just be flooded with people wanting to work with me. That's not the case. We've got like
Hmm.
58,000 realtors in this business, and it's very much like hockey. It's super competitive. You want to be in the National League, you're in the 1% of hockey players that are playing. You want to be a high level realtor and actually earn a living. Um, it's more to it than just having a Instagram business page, and posting a couple things here and there. That's
Hmm.
a big misconception for sure.
Fair enough. So when you say there's a lot more that goes into it than just the highlight reel of social media, which I completely understand. What would be kind of what does your day look like? When you're not posting online, like what would be a common day for you, kind of trying to generate sales or leads or whatever the case may be?
So basically, from that standpoint, this is the beauty of my, let's say, hockey background, whether it's in both, the playing component and coaching. It's just it comes down to structure. When you're playing on a team, practice starts when practice starts. Your team list starts when the team list starts. Your off season, you're in the gym if you're in the 9 a.m. group, the 9 a.m. group's getting going at 9. It's not going at 9:10, 9:15, right? If that's
Hmm.
your kind of off-season program, go to Good Life and show up when you want, right? And that's much like real estate. It's like you can have certain guys that like, okay, I'm going to pick and choose what days I'm going to hit the phone, or if I'm going to work on Instagram, because there's a difference between posting on Instagram and legitimately trying to get leads for Instagram. If you don't have anything to sell, in our business, it's a house. Your stories are very powerful where, hey, I don't have a product to sell, but I can go preview some homes. Okay. Put it in my story. And if I do that strategically, and if I'm doing it on a consistent, repeatable basis, guys, like that's lead generating. Okay. So you're out there with intent, with purpose. You're showcasing homes that you have the buyer pool and you're wanting to get them interested in it. So those are the type of things that we do on our team. It's a lonely business. So for us, we've got team members. We have an office space. We're there in the morning, very structured, Monday to Thursday. We're in the office between 9 and 11. Occasionally, there's exceptions to the rules where we'll have to go do a home inspection, wherever it might be. But for the most part, we're at our office. We're either hitting the phones, we're texting, we're on Instagram, we're looking for opportunity for people that are looking to transact in real estate.
And so, with a lot of that kind of trenches work, if you will, um, it doesn't always work out, right? So how do you handle kind of setbacks within your industry?
Okay, and again, that's a fair question, and the reality of it is, in our business here, we it's not just you put together an offer and it gets accepted, and then it's, hey, we're good to go. Between the offers accepted, you got usually on average 60 to 90 days where it's a whole bunch of things that could happen. And that's after the offer gets accepted. In this market right now, there's not enough inventory. So if you're a buyer heavy, you're going to be taking a lot of L's before you win an actual listing and get your guys, an agreement of purchase and sale that's accepted. So you have to deal with a lot of, hey, I know that house that you guys really liked. You guys just got outbid by 100K. I deliver that news. These guys are upset because all of a sudden they've actually gone out there, they've signed paperwork. Now it's electronically, but in their mind, they've gone through the steps of purchasing this particular property. They've probably gone on Pinterest, said, here's how we would design the living room, our master. And then you got to break the news. Hey, that little pipe dream that you guys had is no longer an option. We got to recalibrate and find something new. Okay, so you're delivering, heartache. When an offer is accepted, we're in the middle of a pandemic. Revisits are a thing. Not everybody's comfortable with people coming in numerous times to their house to go check things out. So hey guys, I know we're allowed 2 revisits, but these guys don't want people in because we're in lockdown. There's a lot of things, even sometimes closings because of COVID or just even other financial reasons. Sometimes they're not going to go on the specific date that they're going to actually supposed to close on. So there's a whole bunch of things that go on in this business that we handle on a regular basis, and we do it in a manner where it's not pouring over onto the client. We're trying to deal with it and make it as smooth of a transaction as possible.
And so to handle that, is there a certain way or a certain process that you have, and if it's like any sort of like mental skills or, some relaxation techniques, like, is it something in particular that you use that, to kind of handle that, delivering bad news?
Well, like at the end of the day, and I think a lot of things that you teach, and I've had good sessions with you. It's your routines, your habits. Like for me, I got a journal. Every morning I'm journaling. I'm writing down 3 things that I'm grateful for. So no matter what's going on in my life, if I'm starting my day with gratitude, it makes a big difference on my mindset, especially if the evening before, I'm delivering bad news, like, hey guys, that home inspections come back and there's XYZ issues that we got to get ahead of. Now these guys are upset, blah, 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 but that's not what that's out of my control. Yes, I can, negotiate and try to make other things there. But if I'm turning my phone off at a certain time at night, okay, and I'm checked out, I'm not available after 9 p.m., And then if I'm not looking at my phone until 8:30 in the morning and I'm doing my morning routines, it helps me keep grounded. Now, it's not perfect science. Yes, there's times where anxiety's high. Your panic attacks, stuff like that. Like this is what the business is like when you're producing at a high level. But these checks and balances, they help keep me grounded.
Mm, fair enough. And so handling that, was that something that you learned in business, or was that something that kind of transferred from sport, or kind of a combination of both?
Well, that's why, in my opinion, like guys that have played, let's say, sports at a high level, any sport for that matter, they battled adversities. Okay, they've won games, they've lost games, they've lost championships in overtime. There's a lot of heartache. Their coaches, you know, there's people that are a lot harder on you in life than what your professors at university or your elementary school teachers are going to be, or even in this case, a lot of times your boss. Like,
Hmm.
my first job at Canon, like, what's these guys going to say to me? Like, they got an HR department that's holding them accountable. If you're playing minor hockey or whatever, like, it's terrible to say, but there's not always that little filter process. So
Yeah.
um, you're gonna be a little bit more susceptible to battling some adversity, and I think that's been the biggest thing that's helped me in my real estate business. Okay, because the stress level's high. You talk to anybody who's in this business, you got a property that's for sale, and let's say you're not getting any bites on it. Yeah, it's pretty nerve wracking. It's a
Hmm.
nerve wracking experience, and you need certain coping mechanisms to keep yourself grounded.
Fair enough. And so before we kind of part ways, what would be some advice that you would give to a younger you, or somebody that might be making that transition from, say, hockey, for example, and thinking about going into real estate, but if they're kind of on the fence? What would be some advice that you would give to them, or some guidance?
You know what? That's the thing, and I think for me, having realtors in my family, when I was in junior, okay, primarily let's say 1920, where I'm looking at, let's say, career options. That's when you're starting to plant the seeds in your head, where it's like, okay, hockey, it's going this way. I'm going to do this, this, and this, but then what am I going to do after? It never really crossed my mind. It was okay, well, I'm going to play, for the Caps, and then I'm going to go play CIS, and then from CIS I'll dabble and try to play pro. Um, Asking some questions like, okay, what can I see myself doing after hockey? How can I connect myself with people that are in those industries that are being successful? Um, and saying, hey, can I come spend the day with you, and just see what your business is about? And if I could envision myself doing something like that, that's what I would definitely recommend. When I was coaching in Georgetown, there was a few kids that the obviously Georgetown was a really good team, won championship. There's some kids that have moved on NCAA, but there was a couple kids that they just kind of figured, okay, hockey's it's coming to a close for me. And these guys were asking questions a little bit like, hey, opening up their mind. And for some of them, they've hit the ground running, like
Hmm.
in their early 20s, mid 20s, and they've carved out a nice little business for themselves where they're engaged, and you can see them, um, yeah, to just really start to develop who they are, and their identities, and specifically like, okay, I'm a hockey player. Because I think that's
Hmm.
the biggest thing is, when you're transitioning out of sports, an identity shift. And if you haven't put any thought or ideas into what you want to do after, that's where you're going to be battling, to find yourself.
Hmm. Yeah, and it's also, decoupling who you are from what you do, right? Because there's gonna be times where, being a real estate agent, that's what you're doing right now, right? But down the road, you might not be, right? You might venture off into something else, but who you are, that stays constant. So
Mhm.
trying to kind of decouple that, or detangle who you are from what you do, is it helps with that identity shift.
Yeah, I know. I think that's huge, right? It's having the awareness, and obviously, like you said, decoupling. Oh, it's a very
Mhm.
good term that
Yeah,
needs
it's
a
in my
level
book.
of education to use.
Fair enough. So, before we kind of cut the cord here, where can people find you? Where can they find Team Apex?
Okay, very easy one for Team Apex, teamapex.ca. There's our website. Our Instagram is at teamapex.ca. So that's an easy one. I'm at Jesse Chidwick, Jesse, not Jessie. No I.
No, I. All right, fair enough. Chitty, I just wanted to say thank you for your time and your insights from sport and life after sport.
Thanks for having me. It's been fun.